Hi, it's Chris at the Quilter's Nook, and we're back for another Studio 180 design technique. And this time we are going to do a traditional log cabin. Did you ever think you actually needed a technique sheet to tell you how to do a log cabin block? Well, if you've ever done log cabins, you know that your squares can start to get a little wonky. And this is going to help prevent that. So let's get started. So with your log cabin, you always start out with a center block, and I'm using white. The technique sheet will tell you, they give you several different options for the size of your centers, the size of your logs. They can vary. I'm doing 1-inch finished centers with 1-inch finished logs is what I'm going to work with today. So the sheet tells me I need a 1.5-inch center piece, and all my logs are going to be 1 3/4 inches. So we're going to start off and we're going to cut as many 1.5 inch centers as you want blocks made. Okay, we're just going to do one right now, but you're going to take your center square and you're going to put it on your first log. So I'm going to use yellow logs and orange logs today. So I'm going to put all my centers on my yellow strip, and then when you cut them apart, you're just going to kind of rough cut it apart, nothing crazy, okay? Because what we're going to do is trim both sides. When we do this log cabin, we're going to be adding 4 logs before we trim our block. So we're going to be adding to all 4 sides of this square. So we want to make sure that our square stays square. So we're going to cut on both sides of our center square. And I'm just using a tucker trimmer. You can use a regular ruler, whatever you need to use, just to make sure that we get this nice and square. Okay? When you do a log cabin block, the log that you add, that you just added, is what is going to sit closest to you on your strip. Okay, so I'm going to add the next log, and this log I just did, so it's going to sit next to me. Okay, and I'm going to sew those on. Rough cut it apart. Okay, and you get this. So we're always pressing towards the logs. We're going to trim up, and I've already trimmed this one. Trim on the right side of your block, because that's where we're going to add the next log. Okay? So the next log is going to be orange. So I'm going to flip this down so that the log I just did is closest to me, and it's going to sit on my orange piece. Okay? And we're going to continue to do that. So we'll cut that apart, we'll press, we'll trim, again on the right-hand side. When you get all done, you have this. So you've got your center, your first 2 logs, and your last 2 logs. And now we're going to trim. So this is, on my technique sheet, it tells me I'm going to trim this down to 3.5 inches. So we're going to look at a couple different lines on your tucker trimmer. We're going to look at the common diagonal, and we're going to look at the 3.5-inch sizing guide. Everything is based off this center square. So I'm going to put the 3.5-inch sizing guide through my center square, and I'm going to shift this so that my common diagonal is going through the other direction. Okay, common diagonal, 3.5-inch sizing square, and we're going to trim. Turn your block around. We're going to do the same thing, but we're also going to do our cleanup lines. So we got the 3.5-inch cleanup lines going across the outside edge of your block. Common diagonal going through the center, 3.5 inch going through the other diagonal. okay? And we're gonna trim that up. And we have our first round finished. Now we're gonna add round 2 in the same manner. So this log was the last log that I made. So we're gonna make sure he's facing me when I put him on my yellow square. And you know you're gonna make yellow because that's what it's sitting right next to, right? So you're gonna put that on there. And again, you're gonna square up just like we did before, square up on both sides of this block because we're adding to all 4 sides. When you get that done, so we added our first yellow log, our second yellow log, an orange log, and our last orange log. So now we have round 2 of our log cabin block. And my directions tell me this time, after round 2, I'm gonna trim to 5.5 inches. So we're gonna put the common diagonal through the center again. And this time we're gonna scoot it down so that the 5.5 inch diagonal is running through the other diagonal of our center square, okay? 5.5 through here, common diagonal through here. You will also see, if you keep running up, your lines are also gonna intersect at all your other points as well, okay? All your intersections are gonna maintain that size. So then we're gonna square him up. Turn it around. Use our 5.5 inch cleanup lines along the outside edge. Our common diagonal is still going through the center of our square and through the other points. 5.5 is going through the outer points, through the center square, and to your outer points. So this is gonna be a nice square block. And there you have a nice little log cabin. So you can make this as many rounds as you want to. The bigger you get, you may need to go to your Tucker Trimmer 3 if you get too big, because Tucker Trimmer 1 will only go to 6.5 inches. So if I added another round to this, it's gonna tell me to trim to 7.5. So I'd have to get out my Tucker Trimmer 3 to do that. But it's the same exact thing. You'd put the 7.5 guidelines and you would just trim up to the whatever size that you're needing to do. So if you would like to learn how to do this and let me walk you through this step by step, please stop in. I'd be happy to show you. This is a nice little log cabin block. Nice little log cabin block for you. So we're gonna take I think we took a week off last week because of the shop hop. So next week we will do another technique. I'm not sure what it is yet. You'll have to wait and see. But thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.